and welcome everybody. I'm here with ESTEY'S crime maze to talk about new developments in the IDAHO4 case. Jason, would you like to just tell us what these new developments are?
Well, to my understanding, I would discuss this with a panel last night, as I told you, on Once Upon a Crime Time with Tommy Jude and guests. I guess I was trying to get up to speed like you and all of us with them, because they heard it up through the grapevine all of a sudden that it's reported now that my friends, Brian Kohberger has pleaded guilty. We're supposed to believe, but as Ellie is going to tell you, apparently the lawyer, it hasn't been confirmed. She hasn't signed off, or Brian hasn't signed off on it. Ellie, I think you can explain better than me your thoughts right now, and then we will get into the case itself, and we can go into the Brian Kohberger, what's been happening with him from day one, the arrest, etc.
What I think is happening is that the prosecution has offered him a deal to spare his life, figuring they could get a guilty plea. The public hears that, the news hears that, and all of a sudden, oh, Kohberger's pleaded guilty, and so that I actually went online to look, and it said that he has pleaded guilty, but he hasn't, has he? Because we find out Wednesday.
That's false reporting, isn't it? Really?
In a sense, yeah. The internet's saying he has already inked a deal, but you're saying that we don't find out until Wednesday. So
that's correct.
The news is saying that if it hasn't been inked, and Kohberger doesn't even know if he signed it yet. So it's a lot of hoopla being made. Personally, if say he probably knows just with that, what they have on that sheath, they could indict him, and like they could get a guilty plea, okay, a guilty verdict. So in a defense move to save his life, so that maybe down the line, there's certain organizations such as the VDOC Society, and there's other avenues of getting a new trial. Like these people are lawyers and judges and stuff, ex-judges and that stuff. They look for ways to get people the new trial that were unjustly convicted. Now, in this case, it would be one the VDOC Society would go all over with a microscope. And these people will have to come up with answers as to how they got a guilty verdict on basically no evidence, a situation that was fully monitored by cameras, and they only found one little bit of touch DNA on a knife sheath underneath the body. I just find that a little too convenient. But point being, he knows they got enough.
Me too.
So whether he's guilty or not, he's going to save his life by pleading. And so that would be a bad move on his part. I myself, if I was in his spot, I figure if I'm screwed anyway, I'm going to give it the best chance I got now. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, wouldn't you agree that in the audience out there, that if you're a Brian Kohberger, and we'll get into, I think he's an actor in all this, part of the theater, and I think you would agree, Ellie. But Brian, why would you even plead guilty? It makes no sense, doesn't it? Because you'd be on death row, you'd be a marked man for quadruple unaliving a beautiful young university students. You think you're going to live a life? You think you're even going to want to be alive living like that? I don't think so. And I think most people, wouldn't they, in this unusual circumstance, though, that you'd want the firing, potentially a firing squad, in the years down the road, whenever that might happen. First time in over 40 years, apparently in Moscow, Idaho, we're supposed to believe they're going to shoot potentially Brian Kohberger. That's one of the charges, I mean, I want to see this trial. I hope you're right, Ellie. I want to see it happen, man. It has
the strange thing was this: the lawyer had come out and said,
and Taylor, by the way,
we're going to promote some other alternate suspects.
Yes.
Right. So, and no lawyer in their right mind, if they have enough evidence, is even going to try that, because there's too much evidence. They would have to attack the evidence. But she's not. They're already to the fact where she can say, okay, look, well, I'm going to come up with alternate suspects, because they don't have enough to convict Brian Kohberger.
No.
And that's why I think they come out with this guilty offer, the guilty plea deal, as an offer to lock him into a guilty plea. I hope he tells them to go pound salt.
Yeah, exactly. If Brian is not an actor in all this, if he's not on an assignment and has agreed, as I've said many times, with the feds, we've sort of alluded to in our interviews, I think, Ellie, which I think he is. I think he's working with the feds. This has been pre-planned, believe it or not, for a long time. And if you look at the drug investigations, what's been going on, this is a lot of this theater, Ellie, it had to have been pre-planned set up for a long time. And Bertie sort of alluded to, I think, last night even very briefly. But so, I think, what was I going to say about Brian Kohberger on the guilty plea? Oh, I forget now.
It would be a big mistake on his part. I mean,
big mistake.
He could literally walk on this with a hung jury. Because truthfully, a lot of those jury members can see what the evidence is. They're going to see that there's none there. There's no there. There's no solid. There's no solid. They like DNA. Juries love DNA because that says, okay, this is the only person that could have did it. They like that. But in this case, the only DNA they have is some touch DNA, which easily could have been planted. Look what happened to the OJ case. When that fucking cop dropped the blood in the shit on the sidewalk. It wasn't there the first day. Look, so much dirty crap happens, and I believe some dirty crap happened in this case. And if this one person did this whole thing, okay, just for shits and giggles, his DNA would be everywhere. Not one little tiny touch DNA underneath the body on some item. It would be everywhere. There's no way you could pull off something like that with not leaving any DNA anywhere. It's impossible. There's things called epithelial cells. That's how dogs track us. We leave epithelial cells every time you rub your hands or wash your hands. Every time you walk, run, anything, you leave epithelials everywhere. Okay?
For sure.
They would be all over that apartment, and they could find them. They've got the technology to find the epithelials, but they didn't find any, so why not? It didn't happen.
Absolutely.
He didn't do it. And they know
it didn't happen. And Ellie, what?
They're doing everything they can to nail the suspect. They don't want to turn around and admit, okay, maybe we went down the wrong alley and start looking over again. But they're going to have to anyway. I don't know. I think any jury looking at that evidence, I don't know, unless they fix the jury.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I can't wait to it better happen this trial.
I'd be thinking there's no there. Like they're putting this kid on some serious charges of quadruple homicide. Or serious. That's not like, that's more than a serial killer. He's now a mass killer. And that's a serious thing. So they're trying to hang this kid on some light evidence of like some touch DNA that was on a button snap of a sheath of a knife that could have been handled by him at any fucking time, or the shit could have been put there by a cop.
That's right.
Like in the OJ case.
Absolutely. Defense could bring that up. But I think would you agree, Ellie? I think what I'm seeing, the problem that Ann Taylor has is, and people that may not be aware of my videos, I have to repeat it again. As you know, Ellie, we've discussed the extraction removal operation. What if there was no crime at all? And again, open your eyes. It was a staged crime scene. So that means really there was no crime at all.
We assume it was a staged crime scene by the evidence.
Yes, in my opinion. And yes. And the evidence really points towards that. They didn't treat, as I keep saying, and Ellie said, they didn't treat it like a biohazard, health hazard. Many of the forensic scientists at times, everybody could see it. They didn't wear masks at times or foot coverings. And Ellie knows all that means PPE, right? It's been talked about many times. And any frontline nurse will tell you that. So what does that mean? And again, look what the feds do legally. As I said in our last interview, Ellie, the feds can legally stage a violent event if a confidential informant has been compromised. So Ann Taylor, how is she going to really bring proper evidence of alternative perps? And as part of maybe she could try to do it as part of the theater, but how do you really do it if there was no crime at all? There wasn't any perps, I believe, that actually took this hit out. And that's where the truth lies in this case. We're trying to connect the dots on that, and I think we need more people to speak on that, you know?
Well, if we are wrong, I still think those three guys, that lady from Huda Mental Health, and
yes, Huda London for mental health, yes, at the Banfield, the students.
She went over those three guys, and I agree with everything she said. There's no way a cop would stand there and let these guys have their hands in their pockets or arms crossed, hiding a glove.
No, that's strange.
All the fucking
that
shit.
was strange.
Sunglasses on at 3 a.m., okay? Come on. The cop would say, take off your glasses. I want to see your eyes. And they shine lights in the eye. I've been stopped at 3 a.m., okay? That's what they do. And you don't dare put your hands in your pockets. You could be shot. Because for all they know, you got a knife or a gun in there and it could kill them. So
here's my question to you, Ellie. Why do you think, was that a psyop from law enforcement involved deeply in this case to have those kids come out like that, have this weird behavior where cops don't even behave like this themselves in front of, somebody again is wearing shades, as you say, a person in their pockets late at night? Why did this even happen, in other words?
Well,
what's your take on that?
The story was that someone had called the cops about them because they were drunk and acting disorderly or whatever.
Yes.
But
remember that.
I'm just saying, they were right near the crime scene. They were right beside the bush where Zaina Canoodle's sweater was found. Okay? Like, there's too much sketchy, and the cop just cleared them there. That's it. Okay, you can go home. You're free to go. What? Pardon? Exactly. No, that to me was almost like aiding and abetting the possible guilty parties, if there are guilty parties, and letting them go.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
So they can nail Kohberger. Yeah. Like you said, they needed someone from out of the area that's not connected to the area who would not have the support of people to say, no, they didn't do that, or they, like Kohberger's a nobody. And
that's right.
Basically, he knows people in that area, but he's not from there. So those people probably would not know him well enough to back him up. So they need someone from out of town. Exactly, the Kohberger, like you say, if it is an extraction thing, then maybe he agreed to do this to get money because they have a big fund budget. A friend of mine got offered to take some very serious charges back in the 80s. They said, help us clear our books and we'll pay you this much money per offense. And you'll get out in no time.
Really?
He said, go pound salt. He said, no, I'm not admitting to shit I didn't do. But they were willing to pay him to clear the books. That was in Peterborough, Ontario. That's like nobody world. You go to Moscow, Idaho, it's nobody world. They can get away with that shit, and they have a budget to do that. So your theory is not as crazy as it sounds. You took all the evidence. You used your common sense to come up with your theory. I agree with that theory. I think that's a possibility. I'm not saying that's what it is. I'm just saying that's a very good possibility because of all the lack of evidence, the evidence they say they have that they don't have. The mother who says Madison Mogan just bought a house. We got a father who says there was fucking cameras all over the place. So they know who went in and out and yada, yada. He even said that in the video. Then why don't they have Kohberger dead to rights? Why do they have to go through a trial and prove anything if they got him dead to rights on a camera? As I said, even if he was wearing a balaclava, they can judge your weight, your height, your shoe size, everything, just by looking at the by matching what's around you in the environment, and they can measure shit. They know exactly.
But let's go the alternative perps, excuse me for a second, Ellie. You could say people that believe the Aryan family, the Aryan Knights, did this atrocity. A lot of people say that, especially some big YouTube creators. I've exposed one of them, as you know.
Yeah.
You could say that, okay, if maybe some rug cartels had it out for these students, somebody did, right? Let's put Brian Kohberger aside.
Coming for them, yeah. I would agree with the parents.
Somebody had it out for the girls.
The parents have
somebody had it
at their house. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Somebody had it out for the girls, and potentially Ethan may have been, you could say, collateral damage because he didn't go there to the house all the time, right? So, but again, I always argue that these YouTube creators, that's why they won't interview anybody, the ones that keep saying this atrocity took place. or they won't interview, pardon me, people that have an opposite viewpoint, connecting the dots that, oh, wait a sec. The feds do extraction removal operations. Hello, all you people that keep going on that an atrocity took place, and I was one of them the first year, but not anymore, or year and a half maybe. But wait a sec, show us the evidence then that the FBI were telling you the truth even from day one on that a tragedy happened in corporate media. There's no evidence, no removal of the bodies, no pretrial evidence of the bodies. And a lot of these YouTubers, they don't want to talk about that. Tommy Jude will, thankfully, Once Upon a Crime Time. You'll talk about it, Ellie, on Facebook. And I appreciate those of you, because this really, I think, is the truth of the case, in my opinion. As you said, Ellie, the evidence points to a staged crime scene. So my point is, yeah, go ahead.
No, in my opinion, he's either way. I don't think he did it.
No.
He would have to come out and write a book about how he did it before I believed that he did it.
Oh, well said. Yeah, exactly.
Literally.
Yeah.
I don't just mean
like OJ. This is how I did it.
Nothing, right? Because a lot of people plead guilty just because a sweet deal comes and they figure, oh well, I'm fried anyway. At least I can get this sweet deal if I just plead. So they plead to something they didn't do. I've seen it hundreds of times. Why do you think the DDoS society exists? There's other.
I'll be looking them up after you told me about that.
There's a lot of different people out there who fight for people who pled guilty to charges they didn't do. They're innocent.
Yes. Yes. You know, what was I going to say about Brian Kohberger in the trial? If the trial happens, and it should, according to you, Ellie, right? Hopefully it will.
He should go to trial. He should not plead out.
That's right. Because, see, if they go to trial, to me, it's going to be fascinating between the defense and the prosecution. All of us that know that Brian couldn't have done this crime, and again, it's just reason, logic, common sense, too, when you think about it. You don't even have to go deeply into the case. How on earth would the state try to even, brainwash the public out there who have, hopefully some people have half a brain. How would they do it, Ellie, where they're going to brainwash people to convince you that Brian would leave 2 roommates alive? And then the defense, right, and the state, they have to go through, and the 911 call was delayed for 8 or 9 hours. Brian Kohberger, why the state gonna have to show, why did Brian, he made the students delay this 911 call for 8 or 9 hours? Or I guess we could assume maybe the state will say, Dylan Bethany, they were drunk, but it's come out that they were all over their social media platforms, if you believe that is true. And if they were, right, if they're in the house, they're still going to know that a Brian Kohberger is stabbing people. You can't say, I'm stuttering. I didn't know what I'm saying.
Well, that didn't all happen without them hearing it. Put it that way. Even if they were in a different part of the house, they would have heard something. They would have heard things being knocked over. They would have heard screams.
For sure.
Look,
for sure.
This is all. It looks very staged to me. My thoughts are this lawyer should be hooking up with someone who knows about DNA and stuff, and have them as come in as a witness, because there's just no way.
She does. Hold on, Ellie, thank you. She has a DNA expert that was in the hearings, and she's world renowned. She did a very, very good job thus far, and she's a real threat to the state if you believe that it's not just all theater. They do have her on the team. So to answer your question.
I missed that then because I hadn't heard that. But yeah, that's okay. Because there's no way this guy could have gone in and did all this and not left his DNA friggin' everywhere.
That's right. Right. Not even in the car. The state admitted. I'm not sure why they were so hell bent on being the guilty party. I'm not sure why they didn't set up, try to plant something in his car, because his car was fucking clean, right? And of course, everybody, those of us that know Brian didn't do this crime, or our opinions, we point towards, of course, the car. It would be almost impossible, if not impossible, to not have some sort of trace DNA in the car. They found it on a knife sheath. Why wouldn't it be in his car, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. And no weapon found. Brian, I guess this PhD criminology student, I guess you could say he got lucky if he did do the crime. or so smart he hit, this magical knife that, without sounding too morbid, stabbing all four unalive. It's just nuts.
Yeah, no, and you said, no, I remember they said he had an addiction. Was it heroin?
Yes.
Okay. Have you ever known a heroin?
That's what they claim.
Have you ever personally known a heroin junkie? Because I have.
Yes.
They don't do that kind of shit. Okay, it's very rare. Usually people on crack or meth or speed or cocaine would do that kind of crime. But not people on heroin. They get high and they're just like, right? Even if they're smoking, chasing the dragon, they get messed up.
Yeah.
They're not violent people. It's like people saying, I smoked a joint and killed 6 people. The joint didn't make you kill 6 people. That's bullshit.
No.
Because you mellow out when you smoke pop. So, I mean, there's certain drugs that just don't fit this crime. And if he was a heroin addict, I'm sorry, it doesn't make sense to me that he would be a person to go in, manipulate such an event by himself, and then just walk out of there, hop in his car, not leave any DNA in the house, not leave any of their DNA in his car anywhere, get rid of the knife and go home, and then
we're supposed to believe, though, remember, Ellie, that he took a selfie, and we're supposed to believe and just go by the timestamp that, maybe it happened that he took a selfie hours after the crime, and he just happens to look really skinny, that he, we're supposed to believe he's heavy heroin addict. We can't even trust the timestamp on the selfie. And even if the selfie timestamp is authentic, if we could trust, whatever source has come out with that with law enforcement, so what? What killer is going to take a selfie and be successful, not have blood and bruises all over his face after trying to go after these healthy, strong students? I mean, we know I'm a fighter. You've been involved in your fair share.
Ted Bundy might, but I don't think Kohberger. I said Ted Bundy might do that, but Kohberger wouldn't. No, he didn't. He didn't do it. He didn't do it. The point.
No, and I find it, before I forget, Ellie.
Go ahead.
Pardon?
Go ahead.
Thank you. I was just going to say to your audience, as part of the rabbit hole that I believe, and some people have talked about it, that Brian was a Fed, Kohberger, working for the intelligence community, in some capacity. You can sort of see it, right, when you really look at and how they've groomed people in the past. People in the drug that will infiltrate, they'll get them to infiltrate the drug world, etc. There's all kinds of names throughout history. We won't get into it now. But back to Brian Kohberger's name, we will get into him. I believe it fits perfectly, Ellie. You almost said it, that because he's out of state, but he's also lived this low-profile life, other than the PhD. And he was only a first semester criminology student, by the way. Actually, one YouTuber claims that there's real. What's that?
The criminology, it involved forensics, did it not?
Yes.
That's the kind of thing that would go against a suspect, and he's the perfect suspect to do that with. He would know about DNA. He would know about how to avoid leaving it, but you cannot do something that extensive and not leave any DNA. It's impossible.
No.
You would have to
and he
be
brought it
that never got ripped or damaged, and that's impossible when you're stabbing people.
That's right.
And
he brought his phone as
wearing those suits. You cannot run around and kill 4 people in one of those suits. That's
that's well said. Well, the other one was they were trying to put out evidence, but it never came out as real evidence, that he had a Dickies suit on, and he had a Dickies tag that showed that circumstantially they were supposed to believe he wore a special sort of Dickies suit so he could, attach his knife sheath and he could still do the stabbings. I mean, this is wild, but this won't come out. I don't think they would say the truth.
Did they have video of him walking in and out with this Dickies suit on?
We have not seen, as you know, any video, and Taylor has not said in the hearings that we have video, audio, or so. What will be shown in trial? Will they somehow find pictures and video of Brian Kohberger? Will the state bring that up? Will Ann Taylor show we have video evidence of Brian somewhere else? I don't think they have that type of video evidence.
Like, this is a pre-trial. This is a pre-trial to decide if there's enough evidence to go to trial.
Yes.
They would have to provide all that now in the pre-trial. So they don't have it. They
That's
don't
right.
have it. That means they got
Good point.
bupkis. So
That's
he should
right.
not plead
That's
guilty
right.
to anything, not even the driving offense,
Exactly.
nothing.
Exactly.
And his lawyer would tell him that, look, you're going to walk here. Don't plead guilty. What are you doing?
Yeah.
But I just think that the prosecution offered him the deal in hopes,
Mm-hmm.
you know, they'll throw that fishing rod out there until something bites, right? And
Sure.
they get a lot of people that way. We'll give you this sweet deal. We'll let you out in so many years, and you know, we'll
Yes.
put you in a nice penitentiary with a golf course and lawn chairs.
That's my worry, Ellie. Excuse me. That's my worry. Could it be that they're going to try to sabotage and not have this trial? And then, to your point, Brian Kohberger, especially if he's a Fed, they will put him in some facility. He'll be safe as part of the deal, and we will never see him again. We won't see him again because he's rotting in a jail cell. No, and they won't. They're not going to allow him to write a book. I highly doubt that, maybe. But we will never see this guy again, and it's all going to be a complete psyop. And unless you have just half a brain, I hope people around the world will conclude, oh my God, yeah, we were played. A lot of people will say, I never bought into this for the longest time. I always thought that Brian Kohberger could not have done this crime. We were played. Taxpayers' money was wasted on this shit. And why? Because the crime didn't happen. I think that's a big reason. It was all stage. It's all theater, folks. But
I think the prosecution's getting scared. They're going to lose the trial. They're not going to get a trial.
Yes.
This could easily, the judge ordered the I think they have like a mini jury. They're called an inquiry or whatever. That's kind of like that. So either whoever decides could just say, you don't have enough here to go to trial. And I'm not wasting taxpayers' money on a bupkis trial going nowhere with no evidence. If they claim they have all this, this should be a slam dunk. This whole thing should have taken a couple of days. Look, Your Honor, we have video of this person going in and coming out. Doop-de-doo. We have this sheath evidence. We have this other stuff. That would have been it.
Exactly.
There would have been no need.
Yes,
so
sir.
my idea is the lawyer's been doing really well, and the Crown's getting scared. The prosecution's getting scared.
I agree with you, Ellie.
And so they're saying, okay, well, we'll offer you this deal and plead guilty. Don't plead guilty, dude. You're not going to prison because I don't believe he did it.
But the problem is, Ellie, if Brian's the problem is if Brian is in on this whole psyop, if he's a Fed working with the Feds, then you know what's going to happen potentially, right? Brian again will disappear. This is all pre-planned in advance.
He could take the deal and they're going to backdoor his ass out under a new identity. Yeah, if that's the case.
Exactly. Easy for the Feds to do this.
Oh, yeah.
And then we bitch and complain that we're missing out on a trial, and rightly so, man. This trial should be happening, man. They pulled out so many heartstrings, as you know, right? Yeah. And they've added so much public confusion when it shouldn't be in confusion. Brian couldn't have done it, man. And you know what? There's no evidence to even show that a tragedy happened. How about that? You know, the coroner not showing up till 5 hours later. You got a corrupt cop who probably planted the knife sheath that could easily be brought up by Ann Taylor, and on we go. What's that?
The coroner didn't have to go there because there probably wasn't any bodies there.
Exactly.
They were already in a hotel room probably puffing on fucking weed.
That's right. Maybe, exactly. Maybe that's
possible. Hey, like, you know, like
Keeley and and Ellie, we talked about in our last interview. We believe most likely it was, if this extraction removal happened, and it probably did, that it was probably pre-planned. And and that Elle, maybe that explains Ellie, Maddie, and in part and Kaylee, they were so relaxed, and maybe both of them didn't know. Like Kaylee would have known the extraction was going to happen, I believe, and I think probably Maddie too. I don't think Kaylee could hold that secret into her bestie, you know, Maddie. But I think my point is they were relaxed, right? They were drunk. And so I think it's all part and parcel. This was pre-planned. They knew probably they were going to be extracted that night. And if they didn't, they knew it was going to happen. Again, Kaylee photobombing her mom the day before, I thought was huge. Christy G said that. Again, a mother reminded me, daughter's the same age then. She said, Jason, my daughters have never photobombed me. It's very, very odd and very suspicious. And this, again, and as you said, why? Because if it's an extraction removal about to happen, Kaylee knows the feds are going to take away their phones. Nobody talks about that. All the electronics. And we know we never saw Kaylee's phone again. I think Maddie's, I'm not sure, I have to double check. I think maybe she had one of her phones go back to the parents, but we know Kaylee's electronics been talked about and her phone. They never got that phone back. Not even the father, Steve G.
Yeah, no, they can't. You know, those phones could give the whole thing away. So they're not going to let anybody have those phones, not even the kids who owned them. They're gone. They're going to be destroyed. Or if they're not already destroyed, but I'm just telling you right now, they'll all have new phones, right? If this, what we say, what we think is correct, they're already got new lives and new phones going on. And now they got this Steve guy collecting money for them. The mother.
Yes, over 80. Thank you for bringing that. Over $80,000.
Yeah. That probably would have helped Maddie too. Get her new house.
Absolutely. You're right on the money, Ellie. Hardly anybody talks about this. You're right.
There's so much crap involved.
It all makes sense.
Really, those three guys still bother me so much. And I know
really it never bothered me.
Yeah,
never bothered me, but I sort of see your point now.
No, like they got stopped a couple of feet from where Xana Canoodle's sweater or coat was found in the bush.
Sure.
Like this.
Sure.
And he's wearing a girl's shirt. She made note of that, and I agree. It's way too small for him.
I think she's right.
And the other guy, he's hiding his hand. You can see there's something on his hand, either wounds or a glove. Okay?
Right.
The other guy's got his hand in a pocket. The cop would shoot the fucking guy. I'm sorry, but that guy would get shot if he didn't pull his hand out of his pocket here in about 3 seconds. So there's, and then this cop clears him and says, okay, you can go. No, I'm sorry. No, that's not okay. And I'm glad she analyzed that.
Do you think, Ellie, excuse me, could that all have happened partly because if an extraction removal is happening or about to happen, which we think happened, I think the evidence sort of points to it. If that was about to happen, could that be, are the feds using potentially regular law enforcement that patrol the areas to not be, they're not going to be read in necessarily on extraction removal? You know, these are called unacknowledged special access projects. Very few people know about that, but that's sort of what you can call or special access projects. So could it be, it's a long-winded question here, but could it be that the feds that are read into the extraction, they're using law enforcement saying, okay, you're going to stop these guys. We'll have these guys sort of disguised, and it's all sort of a delay for an extraction removal to happen. If you know what I mean?
They could do that, but the chances are they just got law enforcement to keep everybody away from the area so that they get these kids out.
That's it.
You know, a big.
That's it. That makes sense. That's it. Thank you. That makes sense.
But they would have law enforcement involved, but law enforcement wouldn't know what's going on specifically. If it's
unless you're the team.
If it's an extraction, it's done very secretively. The FBI and them will not share the information with the locals because the locals got big mouths, right?
Yes.
And the FBI doesn't trust them, so they'll just say, "Look, keep everyone away from the area. Pull over anyone, get their names, yada yada." Okay, but the fact that these guys were so conspicuous, especially the guy wearing sunglasses at 3 a.m. I'm sorry. I wear mine all the time too, but not at 3 a.m. So they had shit to hide, and no one checked out what shit they had to hide. And that lady was going all over everything they were wearing, how their hands were. She was very, very astute and very articulate about presenting this situation. And I agree with her.
Yes.
Cops would not allow that.
Very unusual situation. No.
And who knows? They could be the ones who did this horrific crime, right? And not Kohberger.
Right. Well, and I don't know if that was the reason they put them out, to add public confusion, you know, the feds, FBI, to maybe have people waste their energy sort of saying, well, those guys, maybe they're the alternative perps. Because a lot of people have put that together, right? Well, wait a sec. if this crime happened, atrocity that we're told, I guess those are the alternative perps, right? So,
You know,
and Maddie's jacket is planted. Pardon?
Do you know any bikers?
I won't say yay or nay.
Okay,
Yeah, I've
well,
known a few bikers.
Bike clubs have things called prospects. These are people who want to.
Excuse me, I'm hard ass. Look at the eagle tattoo. Does that answer your question?
Anyway,
I'm affiliated, man. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, big shot. Every bikers, all the bike gangs have prospects who have to do things to earn their way into the club. A lot of the times,
yeah, the mules
things. Okay, well, the Aryan Brotherhood are no different, and they probably have a lot more strict things these guys have to do. These three guys could have been prospects for an Aryan Brotherhood. They're all pure white as snow. Okay,
yes,
probably white, as in not European white. So, look, I'm not saying anything specifically, but these guys have something involved with this case. I feel it.
And to your point, Ellie, you brought up,
I don't know, it just bugs me.
I think you brought up a great point that if there was a hit to be carried out, that these people may have been on the mules, as you're saying, in a way to what's the word you use? Not mules, but prospects. Yeah. And and maybe they deliberately, the feds, law enforcement, U.S. Marshals, they deliberately made sure to position them, stop them, even though they're wearing shades. And for whatever reason, the cops didn't do their normal routine of tell them to take the glasses off. Maybe they knew these guys are in on a hit. We're just going to stop them, make sure we, save those 4 students from getting potentially stabbed to death or shot, whatever. And maybe that's really, maybe it wasn't just all theater after all in that situation. I mean,
I'm just saying, I'm just giving different alternatives.
It's interesting.
But I mean, these 3 guys really bothered me simply because they got cleared so fast and they were so sketchy. All 3 of them were sus.
Yes.
And no cop with any common sense is going to clear them and let them go. I'm sorry. He didn't even get their friggin' names. No, that's just no.
But you know what? Let's go to Brian Kohberger, if we may. Let's go to Brian Kohberger, Ellie, if that's cool.
Yeah.
BK, did you know he was stopped twice on the road before he got arrested by the feds? Did you know that?
I had heard he had been stopped.
Yes, they stopped. Yes, they followed him thousands of miles right to Pennsylvania, where they eventually busted his dad's door down to get to Brian Kohberger. But before that, people that have been involved in the case, it's all on video. They stopped Brian twice on the road, and they claimed he was following too closely. My point is, why wouldn't you play a little bit of a psyop with Brian? You don't even have to say, "Whoa, Brian, we want to take you to the police station because we want to ask you questions about a quadruple, supposedly this homicide, right?" But just say, we have some questions for you, Brian. Would you be willing to come to the police station? But of course, they never made any attempt to do that, Ellie. They just stopped this guy, make sure that we, the public, see it. They stopped this guy twice. As many people are wondering, why would you follow a potential, if you believe or suspected he may have been involved in an atrocity, because it already had supposedly taken place, why would you follow a dangerous guy like that thousands of miles? This has never been done. And if you believe Howard Bloom, right, who is the author, what's that?
It is common sometimes if the cops feel that a suspect could be a danger to society, but late on a highway, like late at night or something, he wouldn't be a threat. But if he was in the cities or something, he can involve other people, grab a hostage or do whatever. So they like to wait till they get home where they know that they get in and get them, right? But if
but he wasn't even in the city. He
wouldn't have been any threat.
Yeah, this was a highway. No,
that's all really sketchy.
So it's all. Yeah. And Howard Bloom, who wrote the book, Howard Bloom is, I believe he's like a CIA intelligence asset. He's writing this book on the tragedy, and we got another author writing it. Howard Bloom comes out with all of these different crazy theories, and And he said that, and he may have been right, they had a Cessna, apparently, probably more wasted taxpayers' money, a Cessna following Brian Kohberger. The feds had a Cessna following this guy. And again, that could be a real reality. The feds are spending all this taxpayers' money, but don't believe that Brian Kohberger didn't know as part of this assignment what was going down. He absolutely knew, in my opinion, most likely. And he wanted to enroll in law enforcement, right? And he's an intelligent guy. I don't think he would be naive to all this happening. I mean, I guess it's potential. It's possible, but I think he was most likely working for the feds in some capacity, you know.
Possible.
And still is. Probably still is, right? As part of the distraction and the.
Well, it's just possible they used him because he's an out-of-town suspect, and you've mentioned this before. He's not from the area, and he's someone that could easily just labeled. Boom, he did it. He's got this training through school as forensics. He's got in law enforcement.
I think it was more a cloud forensics, but yeah, go ahead, sir.
Well, yeah, but still, I mean, you would learn basic forensics. You would learn how to avoid leaving touch DNA on a knife sheath. Which is, I don't know, just weird.
You would think. But they got it on the button snap. Yeah.
It is possible they followed him home to get him where he was safe, but if he was on the highway, he'd have been no threat to anybody else. They could have nailed him.
And again, yeah, my point was, Ellie, isn't it huge red flags? They never tried to interrogate a Brian Kohberger. We know it would be on tape if they interrogated this guy. We, the public, would have access to it. We'd hear Brian Kohberger is finally to hear from this guy from his own lips. They only had one time where we heard Brian Kohberger talking on a video. It was another stop. It was a traffic stop. And Brian was parked. And anyway, a cop, it's all on video. He came up, a woman cop, and you heard Brian speak. And he speak, fairly monotone, regular, whatever. But that's, as you know, that's the only thing we've heard of Brian Kohberger. He's mute in court. He's the perfect patsy, and I think actor in all this, totally quiet. I think he looks like a Fed, is acting like a Fed at this point. But either way, he's innocent, and I'm sure there's some arrangement, I believe, met with Brian and the Feds. But the Feds could change any agreement they have with Brian, as you know. Whoever's controlling the system, they can make different decisions depending on public reaction. So it should be very interesting to see what happens. Are they going to risk to have this trial finally take place, which we've been waiting for? Or, I just thought of this, Ellie, could they still delay the trial again? Because Jennifer Coffendorfer, the ex-FBI agent that I'd go after and expose, sometimes they tell you the truth, right? And she said a few years ago, she had predicted that they were going to delay it till about 2026, 2027. And then she sort of hinted that she thought they might delay it again around that time frame, but we'll see. But
he's got a right to a fair and speedy trial under the Constitution. They can only go so long, and they have to let him go, so they can't put it off that long. Like it's already been 2 years.
I thought Ann Taylor. Well, no, hold on. I thought Ann Taylor waived earlier in the hearing. She waived the ability to have that speedy hearing, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure. For whatever reason, I forget why.
Entitled to a reasonably speedy trial.
Okay.
You can't go 4 years in custody. And then what if he's innocent? How are they going to pay him for the 4 years?
That's right.
Well, what
right.
What if he's found innocent by a jury or the hung jury? And I don't know. It just looks to me like they're trying to avoid this trial because they're afraid they don't have enough evidence. That's just what I'm seeing. Yeah. So there's no way the lawyer is going to let this person. And if he did, like you said, if he was part of an extraction operation, then plead him guilty so they can get him out the back door and end all this and leave us all hanging. We'll never know.
Yeah. No.
Because those kids will be off somewhere spending their new life, and Kohberger will be off doing probably something else, some other assignment.
That's right.
And
I was thinking, Ellie. I was just thinking this is going to sound like I got a massive ego, and I'm half joking when I say this, but not just for me, but yourself. When we start talking about the extraction removal operation in videos, and even in my apology video to Embry, first exposing, then a bit of an apology on just one statement I got wrong on Embry, and I I gave an authentic apology to this guy, even though, you know, I have a lot of questions about this guy. But those videos get shared, right? And the state, you know, whoever is trying to control and tame the narrative here, they don't like people like you and I and others that are actually speaking what I think is the truth of the case, that the feds came in, again, extraction removal, the students are alive, they're under a WITSEC program. We're talking about the WITSEC Witness Protection Program, right? The Federal Witness Protection. They can't deal with that. They know that more and more people are starting to learn about this. Am I not right, Ellie? And that's a threat in some ways, right? Especially if you got a trial coming up. So could we be playing at least a small role, if not big role, all of us that are onto this, you know, and trying to dig at the truth? Could we be playing a role in the state, you know, showing their true colors here and cowardice and maybe not having this trial happen? Does that make any sense or no?
If anything, I'll say it this way. The whole community, the whole IDAHO4 YouTube community,
yes,
are playing a role in the fact that
yes,
they're bringing up things that are inconsistent with what the prosecutor's saying.
yes.
We're showing they have
inconsistencies.
We're showing that just things are amiss because of what's missing and what's been presented.
Brilliant.
I think that might have helped in some small way, but I just think they're looking at a court right now, whatever jury they have or judge deciding this, they realize their evidence is really going to have to indict a ham sandwich. And that's not always easy to convict. I don't know if they're going to want to waste the money on a trial that they can't win. Now, things can happen. He could be found that there's not enough evidence for trial and let go. Then they can re-arrest him later. Or they could, well, there's a couple of ways the prosecution can play this, but I think they're going to want to avoid trial at all costs. They just know they don't have enough. Like the YouTube community has proven that. There's too much sketchy stuff that was overlooked.
Yes.
There's a lot of things that aren't being brought up, like the parents being involved in drugs and having details outside their house watching them.
Yes.
I showed that in the last video we did, the last live.
Yes, thank you for doing that.
And
that was awesome.
You know, that there's just too much about this case that ain't right. And the prosecution knows that a jury is going to see the same things. And I don't know much about this lawyer like he has, but she'd be crazy to let him plead guilty if this is an actual trial for his life. To plead guilty, because I think he's going to get a not enough for trial, or he's going to win on a hung jury. All he's got to do is
technicality even.
Don't let that boy on the stand. Just keep him quiet.
Sure.
He'll beat this case. There's just not enough against him. And unless they're
by the way,
because this is like I said, this is the pre-trial motions. You have to produce all your evidence. You can't just say, later on, well, we have this and this and this. That will not be accepted unless it was just found at that time. But if it was found before and held back and not allowed to go through the pre-trial motions, there'll be questions about it, and it just won't be. That's not how they play it. So I think. I don't know. I think they're afraid of the trial.
I think you're right, Ellie. Just real quick, when I, in past videos, on Facebook and other platforms, people will say sometimes, Jason, even, that devil's advocates on YouTube who said when I asked him for an interview, he turned me down. Or first he said yes, and then didn't even show any integrity and honesty to actually email me back and let's do the interview. He should be honored that I even asked him. But anyway, guys like him, they said in interviews in so many words, Ellie, they said, again, he plays devil's advocates. That's his channel. But he would say, well, I don't think, that it was done by, I I think they mentioned the extraction removal operation. Yeah, I left a comment when he was being interviewed, okay? And they addressed, the host of the show addressed my comments, so Devil's Advocates had to address it. And he basically said that, and I could see why he said it, but he thought it requires too many people. It's too elaborate, you know, sort of for the cover-up, he's insinuating, to make this happen. And yet, I just wrote down as part of this list, eventually I want us to have on videos, Ellie, for my videos, if I may, with your help. Just same officers used, a woman, Pamela, I think, was one of the ones that sent this to me. She was the one. Same officers used for interviews of survivors and went to the house using the same people. They also had, I've talked about before, a corrupt cop. Pamela knows this and others. I think it was Tolleson is his last name. And as you may know already, Ellie, it came out, I'm pretty sure, in the hearings as well. Ann Taylor brought it up. The documents disappeared at the coroner's office with this. I always get her name wrong. I think it's Kathy Mabin, and we discussed them once upon a crime time, her name. But anyway, how do you have reports missing? Right, more discrepancies and red flags in this case, and again, no pre-trial, autopsy photos, no leaked autopsy photos, no leaked raw crime scene footage that you would always get in a high-profile crime scene like this almost every single time, right? But nothing like that in this case. And that's why I believe, again, it shows circumstantial evidence that this never happened, most like this. There was no trial.
There's enough lack of evidence to prove our theory, in a sense. Like I said, all the facts that we have to come up to the theory that we think,
yes,
they're there. But the other people are just humming around on things that aren't there. There's no there, right?
That's right.
They can't even decide on a suspect. They know it's not Kohberger, but they can't tell you who it was. Well, if there was video, they can tell you who it was. The video would have been played at this pre-trial thing. And like I said, they would nail this guy right to the wall and say, well, we don't need a trial. We got you dead to rights, dude. So they don't got the video. They don't got Jack. The father's just mouthing off, trying to smooth over the people to say, oh, no, we got video evidence. No worry. We got this guy. Yeah, okay. Where's the video evidence? Exactly.
Well said. Yeah. Agreed.
Anyway,
but you know, if you believe, again, you know, I'll say his name now, J. Emery. If you believe Pavarotti, I like your hat, by the way. You just got it adjusted. Very nice. Is it the hat where you got adjusted there, or the glasses? Oh, beautiful style.
Yeah, paparazzi.
Awesome. I don't miss paparazzi. Yes, I don't miss much, by the way, when you're on camera, as you could tell, Ellie. I'm paying attention to you, so it's all good, man. You look great. So I was going to say, this Pavarotti, if you believe the Aryan family, Aryan Knights, like he keeps saying, did this atrocity, if they did, sure, the state are not going, and the feds and the university establishment, right, the whole power structure there in Moscow, Idaho, and beyond, they do not want you to, would never want you to know that an atrocity was carried out by anybody in that town, especially gangbangers. But my whole point is, anybody who says the Aryan family, Aryan Knights did this hit, there's no evidence, as we've talked about. We've got to keep repeating. There's absolutely no evidence that a hit got carried out, whether it be Aryan family, Aryan Knights, Brian Kohlberger, or anybody else. And we're waking up more people, I think, to that, which is great, you know. My opinions, but the facts back it up.
You know, it just seems to me that all the evidence they say they have would be shown, and it's not being shown.
Yeah, I think you're right. Absolutely. But that, you know, they're one of the excuses they were trying to say, if you believe the defense is in on all this, Ellie, is that for the longest time in the hearings, you know, as part of the gains, prosecution, defense, and was complaining the prosecution didn't give her enough information and videos. And then she complained, well, they gave her, you know, so many megabytes or however, I can't quantify it. It was just so much. It would literally take 2 years to go through, you know, all the different videos. But you would think it'd be terabytes, thank you. But it would be easy if they're going over video evidence of the actual house and the neighborhood, right? Because you're trying to find out, well, who went in the house? That wouldn't be very hard to find out what the prosecution gave you on discovery to find that evidence. So it hasn't come out like you said, so it's not there, right?
Yeah, no, there's no there. You know, and there's no one that can prove there's a there.
No there.
And yeah, I don't know. It's just it smells like a scam right from the start. Like
we talked about that
to you, and I was checking out while I was editing your videos, checking out the other videos and checking online like what's going on. The more I read and saw, the less I thought this guy did it. It just seems fishy, right? That he just happened to be in there buying some drugs, and they follow him home and arrest him for a quadruple homicide that they can't prove happened.
And no motive, of course. That alone would have troubles convicting this guy, I think, in a real trial, right? And with all of us YouTube sleuth and Facebook sleuths, you keep saying, we have to keep repeating, well, why would he do it? There's no motive. And, you know, they can't keep repeating, I don't think, too often, unless you're a Jennifer Coffendorfer. She'll keep saying, oh, yeah, he was an incel, I think, and I think he was jealous, and he had this breeding inside him. He was jealous of the girls, I think, and just nonsense. They can't do that in a trial, I don't think, successfully, when you got a defense attorney, right, that we're all watching to make sure that she at least somewhat does her job. You're going to show like the prosecution had to admit, there's no motive. You don't do a quadruple unalivings with a knife, and you're a PhD criminology student with no motive. Ted Bundy was fucking insane, and he was, we know, a serial killer. And by the time he did his unalivings, his stabbings, the brutal with the brick or whatever he used on those poor, beautiful female students there, he was already insane. He had escaped from jail. He was off his rockers. Brian Kohberger is as calm as a cucumber, man.
Yeah.
And to this day, like, come on.
Silliness. Well, I mean, like I said, we'll see what happens on Wednesday, but I think he would have to write a book and describe how he did it before it ever really.
You're thinking of OJ again. You're thinking of OJ again. How I did it, right?
Yeah.
Same thing. Yeah.
Exactly. And he would have to do that before I'd ever believe he did it. And I think he'd be a fool to plead guilty.
I agree.
Especially if he's innocent, he'd be a fool to plead guilty. But
unless
this is all legit.
Unless he's a Fed, yeah, exactly. If this is not theater, you're right.
And that's a whole other story. But I'm just saying, if this is legit, like paparazzi says, then he would have to write a book to prove how he did it and describe all the details before I would believe he did it.
Gotcha.
So, like I said,
well, if the trial doesn't happen, my nemesis out there, you know who, Pazzarotti, also known as Jay Embry, who I want to interview, but he doesn't have the courage apparently to do it. Again, once we have 2,500 subs as an ultimatum, then we can have a boxing fight. As we did interviews, Ellie, I got to win, and then he may interview me. Oh, thank you so much, Pazzarotti. You're a real man. Come on, dude. I'll prove that your theory is wrong. You got no evidence, dude. Let's do an interview. Be man enough to do it, man. But this Pazzarotti, Ellie, no, I forget what I was going to say about him. Oh, anyway, I forget now. Shit.
Well, he's doing his thing, and he's entitled to believe whatever he wants. If he wants to believe that trash that he's doing, then he can, but he's not looking.
I just wish he'd back it up in a video, as you said. Do a video, Pazzarotti. Back it up, man. Huh?
There's no there. He can't even give you the names of any Aryan people that he thinks did it, other than what? Farley? Well, just because his name got yelled doesn't mean he did anything.
Well, no, he went over, he claims there's Slocum and a few other names, and he tries to go over their travels. But the one YouTuber that you listen to, the woman Viviana, I believe, that has criticisms on a lot of the YouTubers out there, picks apart. She said she showed that they weren't even in town, according to her. So I don't believe any of these names, even if the names, if somehow Passerotti's right, or Embry, you know, that they were wanting to hit on these girls and or Ethan. They didn't carry, again, it didn't happen. The U.S. Marshals are all over there. Surveillance, cameras. Didn't happen, in my opinion. Yeah. And he knows it. He knows he can't debate that with somebody, unfortunately. He's not man enough to try to debate, it looks like. But we'll see. Hopefully, Passerotti will prove me wrong, keep his word. When I get to that 2,500 subs, if I have to do that, so be it. And I appreciate all your time.
You're missing the fact that this case will be long gone and over with. He'll say, what's to talk about? The case is done. He's getting himself off the hook by putting these circumstances. Either do it or shut the fuck up.
Exactly. Oh, you reminded me why I brought up Passerotti. You reminded me why I brought up Passerotti in the first place today, Elliot, is because, oh, now I just forgot my thought. Oh. It had to do with the trial. Oh, because he probably will be crying now, Passerotti. He has no emotions half the time, in my opinion, on his videos, but other than a little bit of anger he tries to portray. But Passerotti, I don't know how you're going to sleep at night if the trial doesn't happen, dude. You said you were going to get Brian Kohberger off. Yeah, this is what you were all about, right? Justice. Anyway,
if there's no trial,
giving him too much credit talking about him.
So he would be a winner. But the point is that he can believe whatever he wants. He can interview or not interview anyone he wants. But I think he's just discrediting himself.
That's right.
Putting insane,
I think so.
Insane conditions on something with you instead of just saying, "Look, dude, I'm not interested." He puts these insane conditions on to try and humiliate you and mock you. And I just think that's not what a man should do, right? Andrew Tate wouldn't do that. He'd say, "Yeah, come on in, step in the octagon, bud." Right? So I don't know. This guy's he's a player. He's a clickbait player, and he's just making his money doing his thing. That's cool. But
I'll mention somebody that has
insult people's intelligences with your stupid little offers, because that's just silly. You're either man enough or you're not. So either
somebody last night, Ellie, before we go, I'll say has a lot, in my opinion, a lot more intellectual integrity and honesty than a Jay Embry, in my opinion, or Passerotti, because Birdie, you know, I think overall he's a very honest guy, and I was able to finally, I told you, converse with him for the first time. He came on late on Once Upon a Crime Time. Tommy Jude was naturally excited as well once he knew Birdie was trying to get in. And of course, Tommy Jude wanted me on the show, thankfully, last night when I just happened to be on his platform, you know, just looking at who was the guest. So I went on, and anyway, it was fun to converse briefly there with Birdie. And I mentioned to Birdie real briefly, Ellie, I just said, you know, on one of the aspects of the case we were talking about, I said, Birdie, I'd like to talk to you about that one-on-one in an interview with your audience or something like that. I don't think I said interview, but he knew what I meant. You know, I said one-on-one with your audience. So we'll see if hopefully Birdie will do that with me, and we can prove that we're both men together, bouncing off ideas off one another, and try to bring truth and transparency more to this case like you and I are today, though, with the lovely Ellie Sophia Rossetti.
Yeah.
How are you feeling?
Well, it's just so hot out here. I'm having a hard time being enthusiastic.
Oh, is it? Yeah, it's hot. I'm in the sunroom. I'm probably just as hot as you.
Well,
so
I got a nice
if you need a towel, come.
I wanted to be out here.
Oh, good. Excellent.
You know, plus the scenery and the tomato plants and stuff kind of helps. So.
Awesome. Love it. We love it.
There you go. But anyway, so I'm glad we got a chance to run over this, because I don't think it's going to be a guilty verdict. Like, I don't think he's going to plead.
Good. Good.
He'd be a fool too.
So then the trial would happen, right?
Well, no. The judge or the jury presiding over the decision could just say there's not enough evidence for trial.
Oh, I see. Gotcha.
He would walk. He would walk out of the court.
Interesting.
So,
okay.
Basically, well, they take him back to the jail and release him from the jail, but either way, he would get out because there's no trial, there's no charge. So they would have to recharge him, put him through again. But they better have more evidence.
I can't see him getting out, though. Can you see him? Can you envision this guy, the state, allowing him and the feds to be in public, to release this guy on the street? I can't see it happening. I mean, that'd be really interesting, but
the trial, if it's found there's not enough evidence for trial, they'd have no choice.
Interesting. I wonder how I can't imagine this loner Brian Kohberger. The public is just going to be after him like no tomorrow. He's going to be like an OJ, right?
Yeah, he'd have to get a new name and a new identity.
No doubt. Maybe that's what he would do then. Yeah.
His face is all over the place, right?
No kidding.
Worldwide. He's worldwide, this guy. So, oh yeah. No,
absolutely.
If they pull off a trial, it's going to be a hung jury. I'll guarantee you that, because there's no way 12 people are going to agree that they have enough evidence to prove this guy did it the way they said he did it, yada, 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 with all the inconsistencies and stupidities.
But then you have to speculate, as on Once Upon a Crime Time, we sort of speculated. Some people thought that the jury already that was picked, half of them could be corrupt as hell. I think somebody was saying in so many words. We don't know what the jury's really going to be like, right? Honesty-wise, hopefully, and unbiased.
So usually it's more like an inquiry at this stage. They're just seeing if there's enough evidence to trial, and they could find there's not. Especially with everything that
I thought they already could.
What's that?
I thought they already. Excuse me. I thought they already. Maybe I'm wrong. I thought they already concluded that there is enough evidence, and that's why they set this trial date apparently in August.
No, they set a trial date in case there isn't. They have to get the final decision.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
That's what a pretrial is about. Here
they
call it a pretrial. That's where you bring up all your evidence.
I was just going to do my...
Defense brings up their counter evidence, and then the jury or the judge decides if there's enough evidence to go forward.
Gotcha.
It's a pretty simple procedure, but I don't think they have enough to go forward, truthfully. But we'll see. Yeah. Maybe there's things I missed.
I was just going
to... checking stuff out, but I could have missed stuff. I don't pay too much evidence or attention to the mainstream media propaganda, because that's exactly what it is. They're all crucifying this guy on a cross before they even know what the hell's going on. So this just seems very staged. So you're right. It would add to the fact that it is an extraction, and this is all just a speedy get through this process, do and get him out the back door with his new identity, and do, right? And everyone's gone, and all the witnesses are safe and can still testify. Because that's why they're being, if they're put in some WITSEC program, it's because they have value. You talk about state assets. If they, have nothing to offer the state's just going to give them a common name change and a couple of bucks a month. But these people are being heavily guarded. So is Beth Funk, this come out of nowhere in 2015, and the other guy are also in custody. So look, no, there's they cannot afford to lose a trial. And truthfully, even going through the motions, the public, they're on trial with the public as well. Realize that. And all through the trial, the public will be picking apart all the evidence too. And all the YouTubers.
Yes.
So
exactly.
They're facing a lot of adversity with this case, I think.
Sure.
I don't think there's enough evidence to get trial. But I could be wrong. So we'll see. I hope he doesn't take no deal.
We'll see.
I'll be disappointed if I hear he took a deal.
I want the entertainment factor. I think Brian is a bad, but
it's the fact that if he's legitimately innocent, don't plead guilty to this, because you don't know that these places like the VDOC Society or the other ones can get you off, like get you a new trial or whatever. Like, it's hard to do. It takes a lot of work, right? In an Innocence Project, they spent years on some guys getting a retrial for some dudes who are on death row and stuff, and this is where this kid would be. if he doesn't take some sort of deal, but they're offering him a deal because they know they don't have enough for trial. If they had enough for trial, screw your deal. We're going to get you the death penalty, bud. Don't think they wouldn't. Oh, no. The only reason they're offering this kid anything is because they know they're about to be
screwed, yes.
Yeah. That's what I think. By what I see.
It amazes to me that looking back, thinking that the students are likely, in my opinion, alive under the WITSEC program, that everything that the feds have done to try to convince you emotionally that it took place, but with really no evidence, just a lot of acting at the crime scene, some crime scene tape again, and a few badges, but they didn't treat. What's that?
Parents doing interviews, feeding the side. They're catching people's hearts, right? But
and then
all through those interviews, the mother never once cried ever. Now I could see the father 6 years till later. I could see that, but the mother would be in tears all the time.
Oh. I wish you told me that before so I could say that. I'll say that in future videos, Ellie. Thank you. The Christy G, Ellie said she's never seen Christy G cry in any of her interviews. Think about that, folks. She acts panicked, in despair, like I said in our last interview, Steve G. I think that's part of the script, but no tears. It's Christy G too. Wow. Think about that, folks. Come on. And Christy G's a very emotional person, right? You see her emotionally in other ways, but not tears. The
younger daughter that did the interview with them, didn't cry either.
Yes.
That was her beloved sister.
Oh, my. I remember that. Yes.
No tears.
That's right. Was that your hand or your sister's? Do that again. Let me see that hand. Yeah, that's your hand, your arm. Okay, got it.
My sister's not out.
Oh. Okay.
I'm out here all by myself underneath the canopy of this beautiful day.
Talking to the thousands of people interested in the IDAHO4 crime. Yes, and me.
I wish I got thousands of people. But no, I mean, look, it's a case that draws a lot of controversy because of how it's been presented. It's been presented like, okay, this, and this, and that's it. Like, screw you, he's guilty. And then they get all these family doing interviews and stuff. Yeah, the one family's like, no, we don't harbor any ill will or whatever. That's their right.
That's right.
But I don't believe they would be like that. And also, all the things that people have brought up, the fact that things you brought up about the parents being, drug dealers or involved in informants. They got details outside their house and shit. So look, all this shit together. It screams bullshit. It screams bullshit. The 3 guys that got pulled over and cut loose and cleared with hands in pockets, sunglasses, in a hidden hand with either a glove or cuts on it that the cop didn't even want to see. Come on. All this shit screams bullshit to me. This whole situation is bullshit.
And theater.
It's theater.
It's another word, theater. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and like I said, your friend can believe whatever he wants, but he can't, and he knows he can't back it up, and that's why he won't interview you. That's what I truly believe. And it's not even that he's afraid of you. It's just that he's afraid of looking like an idiot in front of all the 30,000 subs that he's got. Because he knows he can't back up what he's saying, and you can actually... what the facts that you're using back up what you're saying already.
You got it.
So, like I said, that's why he's not wanting to interview you. That's why he gave you those silly conditions. And he knows that it'll never happen. Yeah. For all you know, this guy could be 6'7", a fucking like a MMA fighter. For all you know, you don't know anything about.
I don't think so. Well, that's true. I've seen a box hit the big bad guy. He could be a mixed martial artist too, but I doubt it.
Those guys' arms on him. Now, I'm not saying that means anything because I've downed people that were way bigger than me. But like I said, he's making silly conditions because he doesn't want to fight. He doesn't want to get in the ring, and he doesn't want to interview because that's where you'll do more damage than in the ring.
Ah, well said. Yes. As much damage as I think I could do or would do in the ring training properly for you, Embry. Ellie's right. I would do more damage to you, most likely, in an interview. Even though I'd be courteous, I'd be firm. I won't act crazy, Jay Embry. You said I'm crazy. You described me as just crazy guy. I won't even entertain the idea.
Guy. I laugh.
Say that again. Sorry.
He said, I got this crazy guy, this Esty guy.
I got this freaking crazy guy out there, this Esty guy.
I'm like,
yeah.
Okay. I don't know. It seemed cowardly to me. But I think he's afraid to interview because you're going to tear him apart. Like
yeah, and yet he knows that we're covering. Yeah, he knows we're covering the same case, though, Ellie. The IDAHO4.
Yeah,
it's
but the facts
just interview me. Somebody.
The facts don't back what he's saying, and he knows that.
No.
Yeah, that's why he constantly centers in on the Aryan Brotherhood. That's his shtick. He's got to stick with that.
Exactly.
The only way to protect that is to avoid doing interviews with anyone that has a different viewpoint or the ability to reach people, which you have. You're already up over 300 subscribers because you have reached people, and you will reach more.
Thanks to you.
2,500.
But thanks to you.
By then, that case will be long gone and done. There will be no need to debate it. And he knows that. Right. He's a coward. He's paparazzi's he's a Panzerotti. He's a coward.
Panzerotti, that's the last name. Yeah, right. No, we're kidding, Embry, on your last name there, dude. But yeah. Thank you for those thoughts, and thank you for helping me. Of course, you've been a large part of why this channel is exploding. It's getting bigger every day. More subs. I appreciate it, Ellie. Couldn't do it without you. You're an amazing editor, even better than Panzerotti. I know you like Panzerotti's editing. I'm not too fond. Some of his editing's okay, but pardon?
He's okay. He can edit. If that's him doing it, I don't know. He might have his wife doing it or someone else doing it. I don't know.
Right.
We don't do all my own editing, so I know what it's like.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
speaking of editing, although it's not really editing, but we didn't mention as part of this theater, Ellie, I would love to see it in the trial if it happens, is the dollhouse. The 3D printed dollhouse that was so ridiculous the prosecution and defense even laughed at themselves in front of the judge, knowing how ridiculous. You've destroyed a crime scene of a quadruple unaliving, so we're going to use the 3D printed house and we're going to jokingly call it a dollhouse. What a disgrace to the students. If you really believe they were stabbed to death, right, and you believe the funeral service was all authentic, even though no open public casket ceremonies, I've said over and over again, that's a disgrace to these victims, if you believe there were victims the way we've been told, that you destroy a crime scene, university establishment with law enforcement, and you got to use I call it a dollhouse in court when you know it's not the real deal. You should have juries over to the crime scene. We all know that. They're going to be wanting to be bust there for all kinds of reasons to find out how things went down.
The defense or the prosecution could use that house still to help their case. Yeah, so why was it torn down?
I thought you meant the 3D printed house. Right.
No, I mean the real one. That's why they have a stupid 3D printed piece of shit. Because they tore down the real houses. I'm sorry, this is all fucking screaming bullshit to me.
Corruption.
Well, corruption.
Yes, bullshit and corruption.
This is just screams stupidity and bullshit. And the fact that people are chasing their tails trying to prove that theory, and not just your friend there, I mean, a lot of the people on the circuit who believe he did it, who are just blindly buying into this bullshit without even thinking about how stupid it is.
Yep.
They just,
Well, I love the Facebook platform that you're on, Ellie, and we're all live on it now, and I'll upload this hopefully to my YouTube channel, and I thank you, and I love my YouTube subscribers. But on Facebook, speaking of censorship, as I've told some of my community out there. When I go to do a live and I get a lot of views, I should be doing more Facebook lives probably on the IDAHO4, but I've had fun with it. I can't even though put IDAHO4 PSYOP in a title and tag it to people just before I do the live, and I can't put even IDAHO4 cover up. They say it's against community standards, whatever the hell it was. I mean, I'm thinking, are you kidding me? Is that how you dumb down in part people in the, that want to learn the truth supposedly of the IDAHO4? Many people are trying to, and you don't even allow me to try with my research and others to educate people on what a PSYOP is, and that, hello, maybe the IDAHO4 is a huge cover-up, folks. It's blew my mind.
You've almost got
it is what it is, right?
You got to trick the algorithm and trick the people to come watch at the same time with your titles.
Yes.
So that's what you've got. That's an art form. Trust me. I've toiled with that for years. You got to remember, I've been doing videos for 9 years, and in that time, I've learned a lot about it.
Right. Good.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And the more and more they censor, the more and more tricky we got to get with our titles, and that's where they'll get you. Yeah. The title. Right?
Well, it was just, excuse me, Ellie. It was just wording on. I guess you could still say somewhat title, but on the screen as I'm about to do a live, you can text and leave the letters of what I guess what you're going to talk about. Yeah, it's like a title, but not a title in the actual. Pardon?
The algorithm picks that up and blocks it.
Yeah, amazing how that happens. I guess with the algorithm.
I mean, I could stream on other platforms. It's easier here. I get smaller files here, and I don't like Twitch and all those fucking idiots. Hopefully, at some point, Rumble will have a streaming thing that I could use from my computer without needing a third-party app.
Cool.
Right?
I hope so. Yeah.
Program. Yeah. But
yes.
That's again why I use Facebook. But so we should probably call an end to this. It's been a while, eh? Holy moly.
And it's been somewhat exciting again, man, and very important. Woo! Wow. Man, yeah. Ellie, the time goes, I don't think the time could ever go by so fast with anybody else, even Jay Embry or Pazzarotti. I mean, it would never go this fast. I would be, anyway, so thank you very much. It's just, but we put out some really good information. You asked some amazing questions again. You made some great insights as always, and you got me thinking on some different aspects of this case and the upcoming trial, if it happens, and how the fact that you think they don't have the evidence really to go to trial, but it still they may try to do it. Well, we're going to see Wednesday, I guess, for sure, right? Find out one way or another. Does Brian plead guilty?
I don't think he will. Anyway, happy birthday. It's Jason's birthday today.
Thank you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Mr.
Jason.
Happy birthday to you.
Birthday to you. I won't do that to you. But yeah, so everyone can wish him a happy birthday. That'd be sweet. And
Thank you.
We'll end the stream, and we'll hopefully do another one down the line here after Wednesday to see what happens.
Exactly. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too. Everybody else, I
Thank you.
hope you have an awesome one. We're going off now. Bye.
Fucking damn it. Oh, fucking damn it.